Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Stoney Acres Gardening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to do a recap of our 2022 garden, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the highlights, some of the disappointments that we had for the year. I'd also love to hear down in the comments about how your 2022 garden went as well. So before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Go follow us over on Instagram as well. And also, I'd love to have you get signed up for the wait list for our Seed Starting Challenge, which will be happening February 13th, 2023. There's a link right up here you can click on or down in the description to sign up for that wait list, okay? All right, so 2022 was a great year, good gardening year. I wanted to start out with a thank you because in 2022, we surpassed 100,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel here. So we're now at 124,000 subscribers, and I just want to say thank you. It's been a great year, and it means a lot to me that you guys support us. It means a lot to our family that you're supporting the channel. We had, great events this year. The Seed Starting Challenge, Plant Your Garden Challenge, Year-Round Gardening Challenge, all went really, really well this year. Lots of people participated. We went over 100 members in the Gardening Academy this year, and so thank you very much for supporting us here on the channel, okay? I really appreciate that. Okay, so what was 2022 like for us? First off, it was a very trying weather year for us. There were some good things about that and some bad things. The good things were our last frost in the spring came a week sooner than it normally does. So May 9th is when we had our last frost, and our first frost in the fall was 3 weeks later, October 25th. So we ended up getting a whole month more of growing time this year, and it made a big difference to a lot of things like peppers and our summer squashes. All did really well this year because of that extra time. But along with that extra time came a lot of temperature challenges. We set records here in Salt Lake City for the most days over 100, the most consecutive days over 100, and the most days over 90 degrees. And along with that came no rain. And so we were very hot very early in the season this year, and that made for some trying times in our garden. I always try to do some new plants in our garden every year, and so I have some new varieties that we introduced to our garden this year, and I wanted to talk a little bit about them. The first one is these Patterson onions. So this is a beautiful little long storing onion, good size, and they are storing very well. I mean, look at these. These are 6 months out of the ground and still doing really well. And I'm super happy with these. These actually replaced copra, because copra was what we grew as our long storing onion before, and they're no longer available. And so Patterson, good solution. Very happy with them. Another great addition to our garden this year was Beauregard sweet potatoes. I'd never grown these before, and very, very good. I'm going to talk more about these in the highlight section as well, but we really enjoyed these. This is a fun one because it was a gift from one of you. So one of my viewers sent me some seeds for these BC turtle black beans, and they did really well. So I only had a handful of seeds, but I put in about 8 or 10 plants, and decent little harvest for some bush beans. They're a bush variety, but they did really well, and we're happy with them. So we'll see how they taste. We haven't tasted them yet. We're saving them for a recipe that we're going to do this month. Another thing that we did is we planted 4 new varieties of lettuce. This year we grew Fusion, Muir, Magenta, and Cherokee. These are all summer crisp varieties. They hold up really well to the heat, and you can continue to grow them into the summertime. And we were really happy with 3 of the 4 of those varieties. And you can see them here in the bed that we grew them in. The Muir is the kind of the crinkly leaf. The Magenta and the Cherokee are the red leaves. And then the Fusion is kind of a dark leaf. It almost had a romaine feel to it, but we didn't like it because the texture was very kind of leafy and almost kale-like. And so we probably won't grow Fusion again, but we will continue to grow the Muir, the Magenta, and the Cherokee. They were all really nice, and we really like those. So those are kind of the new things that we did for this year, and we were really happy with most of those as well. Now, we did have a few disappointments this year, and the biggest one was kind of related to the heat, and that was our tomatoes. We had a lot of grasshoppers in Utah this year, and grasshoppers transmit curly leaf virus to tomatoes. And we actually lost over 40% of our tomato plants to curly leaf virus this year. And unfortunately, it happened a little bit later in the season. So it was about the 1st to middle of July that we started losing these plants. And so it was too late for us to replace them. So we really got hit hard. We lost a mortgage lifter, we lost 2 big boys, we lost a celebrity, and so our canning tomatoes were not there. We still had plenty to eat, but we didn't have any to can. And this is the first year in 25 years of gardening that we didn't can tomatoes because we just didn't have enough. Which was a bummer. So that was one of our disappointments. We also grew these purple potatoes that you can see here in this picture. I've grown these before. It's actually the 4th year that we've grown them, but I felt like I'd never really given them a chance. I'd never really given them the care that they needed. So this year, I planted them side by side with my red potatoes and my Yukon Gold potatoes, and they did terrible. Same growing conditions, and they just did not do well. So I just think they're not adapted well for Utah because they didn't grow big. None of the potatoes that we harvested were even as big as the seed potatoes. Now, they tasted good. We like the taste of them. They're a fun potato. You cut, the color goes all the way through. It's fun. They tasted good, but they just don't produce. And I'm not going to grow them again because it's a waste of space, in my opinion, for us to grow these in our garden. So I'm not going to do that this year. One other disappointment that we had this year was broccoli. Because of the heat and because it came so early, we had 90s in May this year, our broccoli just didn't do very well. We never got heads on our broccoli. We did get some side shoots, so we didn't go completely without broccoli, but our heads never really developed. They bolted almost immediately, and so broccoli was kind of a bummer for us, both in the spring and in the fall. Didn't do well because of the heat. And then the last real disappointment that we had this year was our fall spinach. I don't know if it was a combination of the heat and the dry weather or if I just had a bad package of seeds, but I replanted 3 different times and we never got more than 4 or 5 plants to come up. I was just bummed because normally this time of year we're eating spinach from our cold frames and it just didn't grow this year. So I don't know what the deal was, but that was a disappointment for us. Okay, so let's talk about some of the highlights that we had. And the first highlight was our peppers. So our sweet peppers did so well this year, and a lot of that had to do with the extra 3 weeks of growing time that we had in the fall. We have 4 or 5 bags of peppers still in our freezer that we're using because we just had so many peppers. They did so well, and especially a variety that's fairly new to us. It's only the 2nd year we've grown them. They're called Chrono di Toro, and they're a red, just this red, beautiful, yummy, sweet pepper that we really love. And they did very well for us this year. And so I'm going to be growing those more and more. Another highlight, of course, was our sweet potatoes. Look at these guys. I mean, this one is huge. I've only grown sweet potatoes for 2 years now. And so I'm really happy to have had a good harvest from a crop that I'm new at growing. We had about 50 pounds of sweet potatoes total, which is not amazing, but for the little bit of space that we gave to them, I feel like it was a pretty good harvest, and I'm pretty happy with them. We're still eating them, and they're tasty, and so super happy with these Beauregard sweet potatoes. Big highlight for us. Also, our white potatoes did really well, so both the red Pontiacs and the Yukon Golds did really well. We still have about 30 pounds of those in storage that we're eating right now. I'm very happy with our potatoes. Blackberries did really well this year. So our plants, I think, finally have hit their stride. They've been in long enough that they're doing well. We still didn't have enough that I felt like we could make jam or anything like that, but we always had blackberries. Whenever we wanted to eat blackberries, we had them. And the variety we grow is called Primark 45. It's an everbearing variety, so you get 2 crops. So you get an early summer and a late summer crop. And so this year, for the first time, I felt like there was always plenty of blackberries. Every time we went out to harvest, there was, a good handful for us, and so I was happy with the blackberries this year. Another fun fruit that we grew this year was Minnesota midgets. This is the 2nd year that we've grown these, and I hit my stride with these this year because we got over 1.5 dozen of these fun little mini cantaloupes that I think are going to be our replacement for cantaloupes. These are the ones we're going to grow because they're yummy and sweet and just perfect size for sharing, you know, over a meal. And so loved again, they're called Minnesota Midget cantaloupe. Another great crop that we had this year was our cucumbers. And I'm glad for that, because for 2020 and 2021, we didn't have a very good cucumber crop. But we're back this year, and we had a great harvest from mid-July all the way up until the frost. And so I was really happy with our cucumbers this year. And then the last real highlight of the year was our apples. Our apples just did amazing this year. We had 2 different trees. So we've got our Honeycrisp and we've got our early Fuji. And both trees did really well this year. They were loaded with fruit. We got more than 2 bushels from each tree, so 4 bushels total. We just barely finally finished eating them about a week ago. Gave them to family and friends and dried them and everything. Really super good harvest and great tasting, and so we were very happy with the apples for this year. Okay, all right, so there you go. That is highlights for our 2022 garden. You know, along with all of those that I highlighted, you know, we had a great winter squash harvest. We're still eating spaghetti squash and still have some butternut squash and pumpkins as well. Onions did good, garlic did well, lettuce, kale, everything did very well this year. And so super happy overall with our 2022 garden. So how did your guys' garden do? I would love to hear down in the comments how your 2022 garden was. Let me know what your struggles were, what your highlights were. Put those down in the comments and let's have a great conversation about that, okay? All right, before we go, I did want to remind you, I would love to get you signed up for the wait list for our 2023 Seed Starting Workshop. It will be starting on February 13th, 2023. Cost is only $29. It's a 7-day event. We have 7 days of pre-recorded courses plus an 8th day where I do a live Q&A. There's a workbook that goes along with it. We're going to have prizes at the end. It's a really fun event. 150 people joined it last year. Would love to have you join this year. And I would love to get you on the wait list because that helps me know how many people to be prepared for. So if you would either go down in the description of this video and click on that link, or you can click on the link right up here and that'll take you over. You can get your name on the wait list, and that kind of helps me out there as well. We already have 75 people signed up. Would love to get more. All right, so that is all I have for you for this week and for the year. Happy New Year, have a great holiday, and we will talk to you in 2023. Happy gardening.